overnight. It's not like taking a 6-week course in something. It's not. It takes time to do this. So I don't know what your situation is up there, but I imagine many of you have gone to book signings or been in book signings yourself, like Bonnie. We've been to 2 of hers down here. But I don't know. Bonnie, just a quick question for you, if you'd unmute. How was your first book signing?
Well, if it hadn't been for you guys, I would have been terrified.
Okay.
But as it was, I mean, I wasn't comfortable. I didn't love talking up there, but I knew I could do it. And having your friendly faces in the audience helped tremendously.
Yeah, the club came out for her, including one of the guests here today, Stephen Cavallero, who's one of our club officers. And so, if you want to get out there in public and speak about your projects, being able to speak comfortably and coherently is essential. So, for example, should you have the luck of getting a major publisher to pick up one of your projects and put it out and it's a bestseller, what's going to happen? Well, you may get invited on talk shows, whether it's morning or daytime shows or evening shows. And I think that you've got to be prepared for that. You can't say, no, I can't do it. I mean, that's one of your big opportunities. If you go on TV, you're going to sell more books with that one event than you would with 100 book signings. It's just like that. So it's really important for you to think about what you can do to make yourself a better public speaker. So a question for you. You can just by a raise of hand. Do you remember the last time you saw John Grisham on TV? No? Okay. It doesn't. I'm not asking for the date. What kind of event was it where John Grisham was on TV? He was promoting something. It was his new book. And it's expected by his publisher, his editor, his agent, and his publicist that he's going to do this every time a book is published. Why? Because it just kicks off the sales right away. It will be on the bestseller list that following week. It's that big a deal for him. Is he a great public speaker? Not really. He's a southern boy from Mississippi. He's kind of laid back, but he's an interesting guy, and he's really smart. He was an attorney, and a couple of books ago it came out that he was a big fan of baseball because he wanted to be a baseball player when he was growing up. So we learned something about him. But is he a great public speaker? No, he gets into a conversation and he's kind of reflective, and he's not exactly a really outgoing guy in that respect. But he does it because he has to do it if he wants to be viable as a writer. They expect that of you. So if those of you who are listening today have any issues about getting up in front of people and being relaxed and talking and being conversational, this Toastmasters would be an absolutely perfect thing for you. Please give it some consideration. Well, I don't have much more than that. I would like to turn it, by the way, I need to do a time check. When would you like us to finish up by? It's now 12:10. When would you like us to finish up by?
If you could finish up, I would say close to like 12:45, 12:50. Allow a few minutes for questions and answers at the end. That would be
Okay. So Dawn, could you set the timer here on my phone?
Well, I can see the time.
Okay. All right. So tap me on the shoulder. Okay. So I'm really proud of my wife, who's been in Toastmasters with me from pretty much the very beginning. 2009, we joined one club out in Tarzana, California, and a year and a half later we left that and joined Toastmasters for Writers in Burbank, which in my mind was a much, much better club specifically for writers. It was founded by 2 women writers in 2005, and even though they're not in the club anymore, the club has survived and thrived. So I'm going to step aside here and we're going to swap chairs. This is my wife, Dawn Jenkins. Here you go, Dawn.
I'm playing musical chairs right now.
All right.
So good morning, everyone. It's so good to see you all here. Here it's 11:11 right now. I know it's 12:11 up in Idaho. I love Idaho. My father was from Idaho, so I went on multiple trips to Idaho and saw such enormous beauty up there. All your mountains and the rivers, and it's just a most beautiful state. So thank you for welcoming us. My history with public speaking comes from when I was a kid, and the teachers really liked my mother. My mother was a very vivacious and outgoing woman, so they gave me a job of going in front of a group of kids to recite a poem in front of an audience. And so I memorized the poem, and they just gave it to me because they liked my mother. I'm sure it was nothing to do with me. But I got up in front of that audience and I memorized that poem. And I was maybe 8 years old, I think. And I looked across that audience and I had total brain freeze. I didn't remember a word. And so the teacher, of course, started the poem for me, and they all memorized it, so we all started up together. But that was my first experience with public speaking, and it made me aware of what needs to be overcome if that's your natural response to seeing faces all staring at you. I know a lot more now than I did back then, but that was my first experience with it. And how many of you have had an experience like that? You got in front of a group and you went, what am I doing here? Let me get off the stage as fast as I possibly can. So only a few of you had that response. So others of you may be someone who just loved the limelight. How many of you were like that? Like my mom. She just loved to be on stage. Anybody? No? Okay. Well, we are all over the map, aren't we, as human beings? And that's a great thing. I love the diversity of experience in human beings. It's such an amazing thing. I'm going to share a little PowerPoint I created. I altered it just for this group because I know you guys are writers and I wanted it to be beneficial to you. So how will Toastmasters empower you as a writer? That's the big question, isn't it? I mean, there's lots of Toastmasters clubs out there. There's a gazillion of them, actually. But our club is one of those few clubs on the planet that's a bouquet club. We're kind of a specialty club specifically for writers. It's Toastmasters for writers. And we come to this place knowing that writers are naturally shy. We like to sit in our own office or out there in nature with a journal and be writing by our lonesome mostly. There are other writers who like to work in collaboration, like comedy writers writing for a Saturday Night Live or something. That looks like a lot of fun, doesn't it? But a lot of us are solitary creative people. And so what will that do for you to get you from a place where you really like to do your creativity by yourself to sharing your creativity with the world? Because otherwise we're all in jeopardy of being like Emily Dickinson and dying with all of our poems in a trunk and hoping that somebody will find them and publish them after we're dead. And what good is that, right? Don't we all want to share the beauty that's inside of us while we're alive? I think we do. And wouldn't we mostly like to be successful and have people come up to us like Bonnie and say, will you sign my book? Now, isn't that like just the dream for most of us? If you haven't had that experience, it is within grasp. So to make you feel more at ease, how many of you want to feel more at ease in front of a group? I know I always want to be more confident at ease in front of every group. It's very easy to become at ease when you know people. Like at our normal club meetings where I've known people for years, I get to know a lot about them. It's much easier than coming to a new group like you guys today where I don't really know you personally. But I have been practicing enough that I can do this. So whether you're at a book signing or going to a book festival and you're asked to be on a panel and talk in front of a group and sound intelligent and fun, when you're communicating about your writing, you want people to know about you and your writing and what you're creating. When you're storytelling, we had a member of our group that went and competed at the Moth. So that is, there now that people are back doing oral storytelling. And one of the things you definitely can do in Toastmasters, especially a group like ours, is write stories and tell them and practice interpretive reading. That's great as a storyteller. It's also great as one of our members has narrated at least 3 audiobooks. And more people are making audiobook versions of their books because people are wanting to listen to a book as they're driving or doing other things. And it's such a great resource to have to hear the author's voice telling their own story. I specifically go out of my way often to take out audiobooks from the library where I get to hear Stephen King, where I get to hear Elizabeth, what's her name? I love her so much. Anyway, all these authors, I just have so many favorite authors and I love their voices. So it's a wonderful thing to develop, and you can do that by practicing. Toastmasters is designed, absolutely designed for everyone becoming a better speaker. Toastmasters was founded in 1924, so it's almost 98 years old. We're having our anniversary on October 22nd of this year. And 98 years. We have over 300,000 members in our organization. And if I'm able to see my speaker view, I will actually be able to see, I think, some of the statistics that I don't normally memorize, like, let's see. What do we have here? We have 15,800 clubs in 149 countries. That's something I don't normally remember because it's just not that important to me. But I will say that Toastmasters is so vital for overcoming the fear of public speaking. If you really want to do it, it gives you so much opportunity. You can take different roles at every meeting, and every role you take in a meeting helps you become more relaxed, more confident when you're speaking to people who are unfamiliar to you, or even those that are familiar to you in a context. So here's a picture of a book signing. So you come in to a group and you have no idea how they're going to receive you, but you can have confidence if you're every day confronting something you're afraid of. Bonnie Schroeder, as David mentioned, has had 2 book signings since she joined our club, and we've attended them and supported her. You can see Stephen Cavallero, what he looks like back there, yes, and David and Dawn. We have a jolly group of people that come out for book signings. And I will say Bonnie did an excellent job at both book signings, the first and the second. She greeted everyone with a big smile. She had people taking selfies with her, and she had people from her book group, people from our club, and people just loving books. So it was both of those events were wonderful, and it was good to see her shine like that. And I wish that for everyone in our club and everyone everywhere. Now, if you have a fear of public speaking, you're in very good company. The National Institute of Mental Health assumes, they are estimating that at least 73% of all people have glossophobia, fear of public speaking. It's probably more than that, because whenever they do a poll and they ask what is your greatest fear, mostly people have said public speaking. And I know you've quoted that wonderful Jerry Seinfeld joke about at most funerals, most people are more afraid of giving the eulogy than being in the casket. They have more fear of public speaking than death. But now with COVID, maybe that's changed. I don't know. If they do a new poll, maybe COVID, it'll be coming above public speaking. But it's up there, isn't it? Anyway, it is a wonderful thing to overcome it, and there are a lot of little skills that you can learn, mainly practicing. If you stay in a club and you keep practicing and practicing, it's easy to overcome your public speaking. But there's also tricks. For instance, when you're going to speak to a group, if you focus on what you're there for, how do I serve this group? If you think about the audience you're speaking to, it really helps because the focus is on them, on your material and how you can uplift them, how you can ask them questions, and how to open up a conversation with that group. It takes your focus off yourself so you're not feeling so self-conscious. Then right before you speak, you can refocus your brain. You can close your eyes and visualize people applauding at the end. You can take a deep breath And one of the greatest tips that I've heard in a number of years is that people who interpret whatever they're feeling inside of themselves as excitement instead of anxiety are better speakers. So if right before you start talking and you're feeling some butterflies and you say to yourself, I'm excited, that actually propels enthusiasm, versus if you say, I'm scared, which is contractive, and it would tend to have you contract inside yourself and make it difficult to breathe. So let's all practice that just for a second. Imagine I was going to call on you right now, and I was going to ask you to speak, and you felt a little butterfly there. If you said, I'm excited, how does that feel? I'm excited. That's a whole different feeling, isn't it? I'm excited to share myself and my stories. Very different experience. While you're speaking, I know we're in Zoom right now. I'm looking at the camera to make eye contact. But in person especially, of course, instead of seeing a sea of faces, if you look at individual people and make their eye contact, look them in the eye for a minute, a second, and look on to the next person, then you're talking to a person. And that is so much easier than talking to a sea of eyes like I did when I was a little girl in front of that audience. It just seemed overwhelming. But if I made contact and looked at each of the persons, they are pulling for me. They weren't looking for this little girl to fail, and nobody's looking for you to fail either. Everybody wants you to succeed, and that helps you when you first get up to speak as well, knowing we all want you to do well. So the next time somebody asks you to stand in front of an audience, whether it's at a book signing, yay, or to be interviewed, to do a Q&A, to attend a festival and share about your genre or your book, to discuss anything on the microphone, tell a story. Whatever it is that you're called to do, maybe tell a joke, MC an event. Just imagine how much easier this will be if you've been doing it over and over and over again and built up that public speaking muscle than if you haven't done it for years. I mean, you could have been a great public speaker, but if you haven't done it for years, it's going to feel different. You're going to feel rusty. So just imagine stepping up to this microphone and looking at all the faces out there. Many of you may have inside of yourself this picture of what your audience is going to look like. Oh my gosh, they're zombies. Oh, no, that's just not the truth though. If you take a look in their eyes, you'll find out that instead, this is mostly what you're going to experience. You're going to look out there and see smiling faces, people that want to laugh, want to enjoy you, want to have a positive experience that day, are pulling for you. So this is the audience you're looking for. And if there is somebody out there that's a zombie, don't focus on them. Hello? Focus on the ones that love you, care for you, support you, came out to encourage you, and are your friends. Look for those. It makes it so much easier to speak in front of people if you start out looking for the friendliest eye in the room. Don't look for them. Look for these. Now, there's a new series coming out about Eleanor Roosevelt, and she's a hero for all public speakers because I don't know how many of you know this, but she did a lot of public speaking, and she had a dread of public speaking. But she knew that she had to get out there and express herself to promote her causes. So she overcame her fear of public speaking because she kept having an experience of it and building a history of success from her continually doing it. Right now, they're having a series come out on First Ladies with Gillian Anderson playing Eleanor Roosevelt. I'm looking forward to seeing it because she was this amazing figure among women, a leader, a real, true patriot and caring, compassionate human being. Almost 6 feet tall, and not when you think of how much pressure young girls feel to look a certain way, she didn't look that way, right? She wasn't a model. She was just a powerhouse intelligence and cared a great deal about human beings. So bravo to Eleanor Roosevelt. And as a reminder, I think all of us want to be even more confident, even more at ease when we are communicating, and especially when it comes to sharing the treasures inside. Don't die. Don't go to your grave having not shared what's inside of you. Please don't put it in a trunk and keep it hidden. Get out there and share it. We want to read your books, hear from you, hear your stories. Each soul has so much to give. So let's hear it from you. You may even find out it's fun. Wouldn't that be wild? Yes, you might even have fun. So let's all do our best to step by step, little baby steps, get on stage and start sharing what we have to share. And you'll just keep getting better and better. One of the best things about Toastmasters is that we have an evaluation process that is completely geared towards being encouraging. So we deliver a sandwich where we start out by acknowledging you for having the courage to get up and present at all. And then we give you 1 or 2 tips on how it might be even better. And then finish by giving you praise of the overall goodness of what you've done, whether it's your delivery, the subject matter, how you presented it that day, and how they value you and your participation. So you end on a really positive note, because we know that the biggest key to being a better and better public speaker is to continually speak. Keep speaking, keep practicing, keep delivering, getting feedback, and improving. That's just the way life is, isn't it? It's always an experiment. Just keep experimenting. So thank you, everyone, and I would love to hear a little more about each of you and your experience with public speaking and what you would like to be sharing with the world, or what would you know you want to improve. So anyone have a question? You can unmute. It's 11:30. We've got time.
Is it acceptable to go to several of the different groups to figure out which one works for you?
You definitely can. You can shop to your heart's content. There are people, we've had people actually, we had someone in our club that so fell in love with Toastmasters that he belonged to 6 different clubs. Yeah. And
Wow.
of course he became a really powerhouse public speaker. He was so comfortable in front of people because he was doing it all the time. You don't have to join more than one club, but if you want to join more than one club, you can. And you can shop. You can shop to your heart's content. We have people that visit us from around the world right now in Zoom. We've had people come from Denmark. We've had from Ireland, Scotland, from all over the world, England, Australia. I think we've had people that visit us because they speak English in most meetings. And Laws of Time works. It is a great thing. We have someone in our club who's been to like 100 different clubs around the planet. So you can definitely get out there and have fun, visit other clubs. There are other writer clubs. I know that our founding member, Barbara Schiffman, was starting another club, another Writers Toastmasters club that was going to meet on Wednesday mornings. We meet on Saturday mornings. Some people prefer an evening. Lots and lots and lots of evening clubs. Every club has its own club culture. So it's really fun to visit them and get a sense of your camaraderie with that particular group and how you feel, how comfortable you feel with their format and how they run their meeting and the people in there. So definitely get out there and have fun. Even once you join a club, you can still, of course, keep visiting other clubs. And a lot of times there are definitely clubs in Boise. Is there a Writers Toastmasters Club in Boise?
That's the
There's
question.
many of them. Many.
For writers?
No, there are Writers Clubs, and Writers Toastmasters Clubs. Bonnie?
Not as far as I know, and I looked when I moved here, but there are a lot of Toastmasters clubs. And as far as writing clubs go, Everett had asked that. Well, the Idaho Writers Guild has a lot of different groups. We have a critique group. We have some other networking and educational groups, but not as specific, devoted just exclusively to writers, as far as I know. But I'm sure they're out there.
Yeah, we in LA, in Los Angeles, we do have a storytellers club that's a few years old now. That's specifically about storytelling, and it isn't necessarily called writers. But we have also an improvisation club, and there is another writers club somewhere, but there's very few that call themselves a Toastmasters for Writers type club. Our name is Toastmasters, the number 4, and writers. So we are very specifically for writers. Jane, you have a question?
I do. With your vast experience, I know this is going to sound impossible to answer. How long approximately does it take someone who is absolutely petrified to get in front of an audience, shaking, voice quaking, that type of thing, to reach a modicum of an entry level that's presentable in the public?
Jane, it's like learning to ride a bicycle. If you only get on it once every 6 months, you're not going to become very good at it. It depends on how much commitment you make to it, how
But
often you do
if
it.
you come every week and you make the
We,
the
yes,
effort,
yes. In other words,
is it something that's
yes.
months, years?
If you want to become a bodybuilder, Jane, get yourself to the gym every other day and really push it. Now, with our club, we meet twice a month, so you couldn't do it every week, but that's why people belong to other clubs. We have members who join our club who aren't writers, but because it's such a well-run club, that they prefer to come to us and be with us because our club starts on time, finishes on time. We have our act together, shall we say. Other clubs are kind of sloppy with things, and we're not. And
Okay.
so to answer your question, if you want to, say, get to be really good at this in 6 months, it is possible, but you're going to
Okay.
have to work at it consistently on a weekly basis until you become so relaxed in front of people or comfortable or more confident, then you can get up there and speak and do impromptu speaking. That's
Very true.
really important. When you go on late night television to talk about your book, they're not going to script it for you. You've got to know ahead of time what you really want to say and what points you want to make. Because they're going to ask you to talk about your book for a minute or so. And you can't go, oh, well, no, you've got to have it down. You just start talking about it. And so, does that answer your question?
Yes. And so a tremendous amount of it I'm hearing is preparation on the part of the author.
Yes. And who knows the book better than the author,
True.
right?
We've had pitch sessions, like for instance, at
Yeah.
our holiday party and in our anniversary party in July, we often switch our format. Instead of having just 3 prepared speakers, we'll have as many want to do a 1 to 3 minute pitch. It could
Oh,
be a
okay.
pitch of some writing. It could be, now that elevator pitch is something that most writers are not good at. They need to practice. The great news about Zoom these days, folks, is you can record yourself. You can record yourself over and over and keep just watching yourself. I know the first time's hard, but if you get past that and you just keep doing it, you will get better and better because you will automatically start correcting things that you didn't see, you didn't know you were doing. And
Yeah.
I know I have that. I was always in some form of dance. And when I got up in front of groups, sometimes I do a wiggle. And it was kind of distracting. And so some evaluator gave me feedback about, are you aware that you do a wiggle?
Or what's with the wiggle?
What's with the wiggle? So I became aware of it. I saw myself on video and I didn't have to think about it. I just unconsciously stopped doing it
Yeah.
because I didn't know it was distracting. I just was being myself.
So I want to be just clear that Toastmasters has a structure that is universal for all the clubs. So, for example, if I get on Zoom and decide to visit a club in Australia or Europe or wherever, or could be Africa, and as long as they speak English, I can fit right in. I can give a speech. I can act as a speech evaluator. I can do any of the other roles they have, such as timer, because they really want you to be giving speeches within a time frame. And I can do any of that because it's a universal setup. They're very strict about that. So if you want to, for example, become a really good speaker, and I
Just
think that
presentable.
okay, well, you have the opportunity to go to any of the thousands of clubs around the world, and as long as you can adjust to their time zone, Australia is a tough one, for example, or anything is like 12 hours from us. That's tough. But if you're willing to do it, and some of our members are, you'd be surprised at how much you can learn about not only their culture in life, but about the way they like to speak and so forth. It's a very inspiring educational experience, unlike any other in the world, in my opinion. If you really want to become the universal human being, Toastmasters can help you with that, where you can travel anywhere in the world. Now you can do it on Zoom, and you can just be wherever you want. We have one member who has visited many clubs, and he's gone to South Africa, he's gone to Japan,
Wow.
and Australia, and he has to, of course, get up at strange times to and wake himself up. But I will tell you, it's really amazing to be able to go anywhere in the world and fit right in, like you do in Toastmasters, as long as there's
Interesting.
an English-speaking club.
So when he
Think-
talks about structure, typically a club has a meeting, sometimes they're an hour, sometimes they're 2 hours. We have become more flexible at our end time to make sure everybody gets to participate. But we have scheduled speakers. We have evaluations for each one of those scheduled speakers. So there's usually about 3 or 4 speakers at a meeting in most clubs across the planet. Most speeches are somewhere between 5 to 7 minutes, but they can be longer. The more experienced speakers want to go longer, that is the goal. And then you have usually maybe a break, and you have table topics, which are impromptu speaking. So they'll give you a question or topic to speak about that you don't have any way to prepare. It's just speaking off the cuff for 1 to 2 minutes. That's all, just 1 to 2 minutes.
Like
And
improv,
sometimes, huh?
like improv,
It
improvisation.
is. It's improv.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be funny. It could be quite serious. It could be thought provoking. It usually goes with the theme of the meeting that day. And if they know you well, they may specifically shape it toward you. That's what I tend to do. I try to make it applicable to the person. So I try to give Bonnie a prompt about Idaho because I know that's where she is right now. But I don't have to because she spent a lot of her life down here in sunny California. But we can definitely shape our table topics, prompts, or questions for that person because the goal is not to stump someone, it's to really get them talking, to have them feel comfortable talking about almost anything.
Dawn, I'm interrupting. Somebody sent in chat a request for more information. Who is that?
That's Joan.
Joan? We can
Yes.
send you what's called a guest package, which includes information, but we would need to have some way to email it to you or text it to you. Just so if you could
So
put
you
your
can privately chat us your email
Right.
address. Now, it's interesting. You said you're writers Toastmasters for women. Now, our club is not.
It's two-thirds women.
Yeah, we're over. Most meetings we have more women than men,
Right.
but we do have a pretty good representation. Maybe, like you say, maybe 60-40 right now of women to men. And there are some clubs that are gender specific, or there's every kind of club on the planet. I know one of our members had, there's a lot of Democrats down in our area, and she founded a Republican club. So that, there's clubs that are very specific and political. There's some that are religious. I know a club that's in a Catholic church.
So if you want more information about this, we can send it to you, but put your name and your,
There it is.
there it is. Okay.
Copy and
Can you write that down?
I will copy it
Okay.
and put it somewhere.
So,
And David and Dawn, Stacy had also asked if it was possible to join your club via Zoom. So
Yes.
if
well,
she's
that's
saying-
what you're doing, Bonnie.
That was what,
That's what I'm
that's what I
doing,
would
yeah.
want to.
And
Yeah.
could you, Stacy, why don't you private chat David or Dawn, and they can give you the web link to
Yeah.
visit
We
the
meet
club.
in Zoom twice a month, and it's fun. We've
It
got
is fun.
we are good at Zoom because we've been doing it a long time, and so we'd be happy to do that. I wanted to share in the remaining time we have about an author we know. I don't want to give out his name because I haven't talked to him in some time, and unfortunately he's developed dementia. But we've known him a long time. He's published or has had published over 24 books, but he's very self-conscious, and so he doesn't enjoy going to book signings that are large. He likes it more intimate, one or two people, maybe. And he went on a panel a few years ago here in LA or wherever it was, and San Diego, I think. And he was just terrified of being on the panel. So he never worked on his public speaking. And as a result, he's written all these books, which is 24 is considered prolific, I would say. And he's just never really gone big with it. And I think that had he been willing to step up and do more in-person events, I think he would have been much more successful. And also the other thing I want to impress upon you is the importance of social media now. And I know it's hard for a lot of people to do social media because it's so new and it's so, I guess we're hearing all the horror stories on TV about social media. But it does reach a huge audience, and you don't have to be one of those who dances on camera or, you know what I'm saying, does ridiculous things. You can actually talk about writing or subjects that interest you on social media, and you'll reach enough people where you could sell a good sizable quantity of books, which is what it's all about if you want to make a living doing this. So anyway, Dawn, if you write down some more, my vision isn't close-up vision.
So Everett would like to visit us, so we just need your email address. I'd be happy to send you guys an invite. We have a MailChimp we put out before every meeting with a meeting announcement and newsletter. So I've been publishing those newsletters twice a month for quite a few years now.
4 years.
So we have fun with it. We take photos in Zoom. I get everybody to smile, and I take a picture and I share it. So we do these newsletters, and I'm very happy. Thank you. You gave me your email address now, Everett. I will definitely invite you. So if you get a MailChimp from us, that's why you're getting it, because this is our way of...
And they usually go into spam folders.
They can.
Unfortunately. So please check your spam folder. Our next meeting is going to be on May 7th, Saturday morning, 11 o'clock your time, 10 o'clock our time. And look for it the week before the meeting in your spam folder. Unfortunately,
or promotion. It goes in my promotion folder very often. And I'm the one sending it, and it still goes in my promotion folder. So, you know,
ridiculous. Emails become this ridiculous thing with so many going out. It's just ridiculous. And they just throw it in spam folders. And this is stuff I want to see sometimes. And there's no way to get around that, really. You just have to check your spam folder.
And we're really grateful not to get a lot of that spam, so I will say that.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
But there are things that I get from Red Cross. Red Cross automatically goes in my promotion folder, and I'm going, wait a second, I want to see what comes into me. I donate blood regularly, so I want to see it.
They want your blood.
They do. They want my blood. O positive here. Yeah. I'm an O positive hero, yes. I mention this because Bonnie also did volunteering with Red Cross when she was down here, and it's sure doing a lot of good work everywhere, isn't it? Yeah. Risking their lives and...
Yeah. So it's 12:45 your time. Any more questions before we hand it back to Bonnie?
No, thank you.
You guys asked some good questions there. One thing that I'd like to ask you, David, because you have given a lot of speeches about how to give a good speech. And one thing that you mentioned in one of your speeches that has always stuck with me, and I try to adhere to it, is the rule of three. Could you explain the rule of three?
Well, the rule of three I got from writing seminars when I've written a lot of screenplays, and it's if you want to get your point across, you need to say something 3 times. That's one thing. Or if you're writing a scene, Uh, it just comes into play if you go too little with something, you do it only once or twice, it doesn't really have an impact. But if you want to have an impact, you do it 3 times and stop at 3. Don't go 4 and 5. And it applies to any number of things. So if you want to make a point when you're giving a speech, you need to say it 3 times, not once or twice. Say it 3 times, and you can say it differently each time if you want. If you want people to remember your name, you introduce yourself once and then again, and just in case they didn't get it, say it a 3rd time, because then it sinks in at that point. First time we hear somebody's name, it kind of goes whoosh, you know. 2nd time, oh, okay. 3rd time, okay, I remember it now. It's intentional to help people remember things.
And it's good to have a mnemonic. Like I've met so many people, and I often write their name across their forehead so that when I see them again, I see their name on their forehead.
Yeah.
So, there's lots of fun tricks to do where you can help your memory. Stephen, you turned your camera on. Hi, you're up there in the Arctic.
He's in Yukon right now.
Hello.
Hello.
Can I supplement what David said?
Sure.
I had a manager at work once, and she put it this way, the rule of 3 that David's talking about. Tell people what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. And so I've never forgotten that. I've always tried to remember that.
Yeah, you can't just say something once.
No.
I mean, you can, but they're not going to remember it. And so just be aware of that. If you're if you are trying to make a point, keep it short and simple. Don't get too elaborate. Always come back to the essence of what you're trying to say. Does that answer your question, Bonnie?
Yes, thank you, David. That was a good explanation of it. It's something that I forget sometimes, but I try and keep it in mind. Just like I try and keep in mind Dawn and the way that Dawn takes notes with all of her bubbles all over the page instead of just a straight line of text.
It's her personality.
She's talking about clustering. That's my favorite way of organizing a speech, because I did a writing workshop, Betty Edwards' book called Writing on the Right Side of the Brain. Anybody here read it? Anyone at all? Anyone? So I did this workshop many years ago, and it's a wonderful book full of fun ways of bypassing your inner critic. So one of the things she would say is you take a topic of any kind. I did this workshop, and it was very fun. So you take a topic, you put it in the central bubble, a circle, and then you look at it, and what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you look at that word? Like your first association. And you write that and put it in its own bubble. Then you look at that bubble and you go, well, looking just at that word, not the two, but what's your first association from that? And you can bubble on out from there. And then you go and start at the middle word again and go off. And you can do it in any way you like, but you'll come up with a page covered in circles that are all clustered together off that main idea, that main thing you started with. And then she would invite you to take a breath, take it, center yourself, close your eyes, and then take a look at the whole sheet. Just gaze at it. And like something comes out of it. It's like a whole creation will come out of it that's birthed from seeing all the different things that connect on that page. It's a very non-linear way of allowing something to emerge from you that's part of your unconscious through all those associations that you have with that word. And people would each share what came from that. They all had the same word, and it was very different stories. We had 10 people, 10 very different stories came. It was a wonderful exercise, and I often use that to organize instead of your standard let's say outline. Yeah. Toastmasters gives you an outline, a standard one. So if you're comfortable with those, great, go for it. They're very linear. Yeah. Most people can follow them very well.
I just want to make one more thing. We're obviously trying to sell you on the idea of joining a Toastmasters club. And believe it or not, it's really a bargain. It's on the average, it's probably about $10 a month or less. And what can you get for $10 a month at Starbucks? Not much. And you can do it at your own pace. and you can just have a lot of fun with it, and there's no pressure. And I think it would be really a great thing for you to get really comfortable public speaking, because it will do so much for you as a writer. You just won't believe the difference it will make. So that's all I'm going to say today. Good luck.
Well, I'm living proof of that, because when I joined your club, my first book had just been published, and all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, I have to talk to people about it. And I was literally terrified. And I came into the room, and you guys greeted me and got me to the point where I could deliver that first speech at that first
Yeah.
book launch. And there were probably, 50 some people there.
There are a lot of
And
people there.
I didn't choke or anything. And
No,
what
you
said,
survived.
yeah, I survived that.
And more.
It was actually kind of fun at the very end of it there. But you truly do make public speaking fun at Toastmasters for
Yeah.
writers.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
very supportive environment.
If it's not fun, why do it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So thank you, guys.
And I did abbreviate this presentation from one I did for a architectural firm.
What do you need, Don? We're trying to.
Somebody asked me about The Power of Your Other Hand, but there's another book, and I'm probably going to spell it terribly, so forgive me. So it's called The Power of Your Other Hand by Lucia Cappuccioni. If you like really creative ways of approaching creativity,
Right.
She was suffering from something that the doctors weren't really helping her with, and she started having conversations between her right hand, her dominant hand, and her non-dominant hand. And she started writing with it, she started doing art with it, and having these conversations. And even though she often couldn't read what her non-dominant hand was writing, she heard what it was saying. It gave her tips on how she could help her health. And she survived and thrived, actually. And it was such a healing experience for her, because this other, like your top dog, Gestalt terms. Go ahead, Jane.
No, that was all.
We need to.
I appreciate yours and your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, so it's 11:53. Is
12:53.
I'm sorry, 12:53. Bonnie or Laura, is there anything else that you want from us, or do you want to have some announcements at the end?
Well, I think we can turn you loose. I mentioned the Writers Guild and the annual conference in May. And if you guys were here, I'd try and coerce you into coming to that. But it's going to be in person. Very excited.
Oh, it's in person. Oh, okay.
In person,
Wait,
yeah.
Are you going to put us up for the night?
You can stay at the Hotel Schroeder anytime you want.
B&B, huh?
Free Wi-Fi.
Can we make another announcement for the Mystery Writers Academy coming up at the end of the month?
Go ahead.
We have an attorney, the assistant district attorney, or the deputy district attorney for the Ada County, speaking about in the Mystery Writers Academy. So he'll be discussing some of the famous cases of eludes me his name, a real famous case of Simpson, right?
O.J. Simpson.
O.J. Simpson. Thank you. And then a few other cases if we have a chance, but he's going to go through the procedure of the how the court works and how a case gets brought into court. So that should be on the 28th at 6:30 over Zoom.
Great.
Thank you, Joan. Yeah, the Mystery Writers Academy is one of the many educational forums that Idaho Writers Guild has. And if anybody is interested in any of the Idaho Writers Guild's programs, just type idahowritersguild.org into your search box and it'll bring up our website. You can see the Mystery Writers Academy, we have critique groups, we have other educational, and we actually have an in-person networking event on the third Thursday of the month. And they're all out there for us to take advantage of. So do check it out. And thank you for pointing that out, June. I forgot to mention the website.
You're welcome.
Thank you, David and Dawn. This was really fun. I sure enjoyed hearing it, and I'm already sold on it. But if I hadn't already been sold on, I think I would have been today too. Okay.
By all means, come for a test drive. Check us out.
Yeah.
We meet usually on the first and third Saturday mornings which is a little later for you because we're 10 to noon, so it'd be 11 to 1 for you guys.
Right.
And if not us, other groups. And our theme on this coming meeting will be Mothers Make Memorable Characters in honor of Mother's Day, celebrating Mother's Day on the next day. But we have that as our theme. Then we've had murder mystery themes. We have different writerly themes at most of our meetings. In July, we're moving to the second and fourth Saturdays because of 4th of July weekend. We're trying to avoid conflicting that. But anyway, so thank you for having us,
Thank you.
and you
Thank
take good
you.
care. Keep
Thank you.
writing, keep sharing the treasures.
Thank you. Nice to
Thank
see
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.